Discretion is advised.
Approximately half an hour after the New York City bombing that wounded 29 people, one critically, Donald Trump deplaned, and then he promptly said that a, quote, bomb went off in New York. He added, "We've got to get very tough. It's a terrible thing what's going on in our world, what's going on in our country. But we are going to get tough and smart and vigilant, and we are going to end it." And the media lost its collective mind. How could Trump jump to the conclusion that a trash can did not spontaneously explode and hurt 30 people on the same day somebody attempted to blow up a pipe bomb near a military base in New Jersey? What fool, what crazy fool would leap to such conclusions? CNN tutted, quote, "Typically, national political figures use caution when describing unfolding situation and law enforcement actions." Like when, Obama said that the officers in Cambridge, Massachusetts acted stupidly. Keith Olbermann said, quote, "Dear Donald Trump, I'm sorry the explosion in Chelsea scared you so much when everyone in Chelsea seems fine. Hashtag you exploitative scumbag," except for the 30 people who were wounded. Democratic consultant John Aravosis tweeted, "Hey, there's a surprise. Donald Trump decided to use the New York explosion to his political advantage," as opposed to Democrats who say every crisis is an opportunity. Jamil Smith of MT News tweeted, "Does everyone know how effing dangerous it is to say this? We here in New York don't know what it was, but he does. NYPD, New York Fire Department don't know if it was a bomb in Chelsea, but Trump does." Well, yeah. Claire Jeffrey of Mother Jones tweeted, "Don't be like Trump and spread misinformation. Nobody knows what caused Chelsea explosion. Could be gas leak or other accident." That narrative fell apart about 2 hours afterward when Hillary Clinton, while ripping Trump for supposedly jumping the gun, described the New York City bombing as a bombing herself. Whoopsie. Much of the media criticism, incredibly, came after Hillary had already confirmed that the bombing was a bombing. Is it any wonder nobody trusts the media when their first reaction to a terror bombing in a major city is to wonder about a politician saying that a bombing is a bombing just a little bit too early? Lots going on today. Obviously, the big news over the weekend is that there is this bombing in New York City, and this happens in Chelsea. 29 people wounded, one person wounded critically. There was also an attempted pipe bombing in New Jersey. There was also an attempted bombing this morning in Elizabeth, New Jersey. Apparently the robot that was supposed to disarm the bomb accidentally triggered the bomb, so it blew up. Nobody was hurt. My favorite part of this story is obviously not the bombing itself, but my favorite part is that Bill de Blasio's anti-terror plan is apparently letting more criminals out onto the streets, because the way that there were two bombs planted in New York. One went off. The other one was found. How was the other one found? It was found because thieves saw a rolling backpack lying on the street and decided they liked the rolling backpack, so they opened it up. They took out the kettle bomb. It looked like a pressure cooker. They took out the pressure cooker, which was the bomb. They physically took it out of the suitcase, accidentally disconnecting it, put it in a trash bag, and then stole the suitcase. That service to actually get rid of to dismantle the bomb. So well done for the thieves in New York City who are, again, this is de Blasio's plan to stop terrorism, is to cut down on the police and increase the number of thieves who are going to steal the objects that have bombs in them. Amazingly, that was actually not the only situation in which this happened today. It happened in New Jersey also. The way that the police discovered this backpack filled with 5 IEDs reportedly was because somebody left the backpack, in a public area so that it would kill people, and a thief picked it up and started to walk away with it, and then looked inside and said, "Oh my God, there are bombs in here," and called the cops. So thank you to America's thieving community. You've saved a lot of people today. Pretty great. Okay, so Donald Trump was under a lot of fire from the media. I want to talk about today why Donald Trump benefits when there's a terrorist attack. And he does. The reason that Donald Trump benefits when there's a terrorist attack, at least ones like in San Bernardino, is because the Democrats believe all the wrong things. The media believe all the wrong things. So Trump makes basically 3 arguments when it comes to terror attacks. Argument number 1 is that the media will not cover a terror attack as a terror attack, and they pretend it's not a big deal, and they cover the Islamophobia angle, and they worry about the backlash from us evil Americans significantly more than they worry about the actual bombing. So that's his argument number 1, is against the media. Argument number 2 is against the Democrats. He says the Democrats don't know how to deal with this. They refuse to even label this Islamic terrorism. They're hesitant to say what we all know is true. Their angles just don't work on how they're going to deal with this. They blame all the wrong people. So that's his second argument, is the Democrats don't know how to deal with this. And his third argument is, when it comes to terrorism, the best solution to terrorism is to stop the terrorists from coming here in the first place. We need to limit immigration significantly, cut it off completely, actually, from countries where we have no capacity to vet. Places like, say, Afghanistan, places like, say, Syria. And the Democrats, meanwhile, keep talking about how they want to bring in more people from these places. So those are Trump's three big arguments. And given the events of the weekend, all three of these arguments are absolutely stellar. They absolutely work, especially in this situation in Minnesota. So there's a stabbing attack in Minnesota by a guy. ISIS now takes credit for this 22-year-old guy. Was a student. I'm trying to find out. Was he Somali refugee? Was that the story? He's a refugee, I guess, or his dad was, and he commits this atrocity. He's going around a mall in Minneapolis, stabbing people, killing one, wounding another 7, and he does that while asking people if they're Muslims first. The media cover this up for 24 hours. They have no idea what the motive is. No idea what the motive is. Can you imagine if somebody went around stabbing people, asking if they were Christian and shouting Jesus Christ at the top of his lungs? How long do you think it would take for the media to reveal that the motive was Christianity, radical Christianity? It took them 24, 48 hours to say that this had anything to do with radical Islam. It took them until ISIS actually claimed credit. So I want to start with the media angle. So here is the actual video of the bomb going off in Chelsea. This happened late Saturday night.
Hi.
Yeah, oh, there were people,
distance.
Kirshner. That's really sad.
Yeah.
I saw that one guy right there.
No, yeah, we have
And people running away, obviously. So for people who can't see this and are listening to it, in the distance you can see a big flash of light, and the bomb goes off. And it clearly looks like a bomb. I mean, there's video of this contemporaneous. It clearly happened. And then the NYPD finds a pressure cooker, and here's a picture of the pressure cooker. Now, you'll notice this picture of the pressure cooker. This is from New York City Alerts. You'll notice on the picture of the pressure cooker, there's a little symbol. It's down near about the 5 o'clock position on this pressure cooker, if the top of it were clock. And what you see there, it's hard to see a little bit, that is a crescent and a star, right? That is an Islamic symbol on top of the pressure cooker. And we know that the bombers in Boston used pressure cookers in order to try and kill people at the Boston Marathon. We also know that Al-Qaeda had told potential terrorist recruits, here's how you make a bomb. You take a pressure cooker and you put a bunch of stuff in it. So pressure cooker bombs have sort of become the latest IED. Now, I want to preface what I'm about to say with regard to the media and the Democrats with this. We know why people do this. We do. We know why people do this. It's because they follow a brand of Islam that believes that they must murder the infidel. It's that simple. And they're not trying to hide this. I mean, the terrorists don't try to hide this. It's not like they're hiding this under some sort of dog whistle. There's no dog whistle. So to take an example, there's a Palestinian preacher who, over the weekend, he was calling on Allah to blow up Washington, D.C. because Allah has promised them the White House. Here's tape of it.
يا أمريكا سنخبرك باليوم الذي يرفع الأذان من على البيت الأبيض ومن على القصر الأحمر الكرملين في موسكو سنكبر عليه لأن الله وعدنا بهما.
Allah has promised both places to us.
وعد محمدا صلى الله عليه
I mean, we can stop it there, but is it a great mystery why these people are doing what they're doing? Is it a giant mystery? I mean, he seems to understand what it is that he's talking about, and it seems the terrorists understand what they're talking about. Okay, so we know why they do it, and they know what they do. The reason that Trump benefits from terrorist attacks is not because terrorist attacks are inherently good for Republicans. They're not. The reason is because Democrats do all the wrong things whenever there's a terrorist attack. They don't make you feel secure. They make you feel like they don't take the problem seriously, and the media do the same thing. So Trump starts. So I think that it's important to recognize what the media was actually focused on over the weekend. So we'll get back to the bombing in a second, but I think it's important to digress for just a second. Donald Trump on Friday played a big trick on the media. So on Thursday, he said to the Washington Post that he didn't want to talk about whether Barack Obama was born in the United States. And the media went insane. They lost their minds. We have to talk about this. It's a big issue. We have to talk about birtherism. Sure, Obama released his birth certificate in 2011, but this is a big campaign issue. We all have to talk about it. So on Friday, Trump plays a trick on the media. He says he's going to hold a big speech event where he discusses the birther issue at length, and then he starts the event. He trots out 20 minutes of veterans endorsing him, and then finally at the very end, he trolls the media. He drops 10 seconds, and here's what Trump says about the birther issue.
Not to mention her in the same breath, but Hillary Clinton and her campaign of 2008 started the birther controversy. I finished it. You know what I mean. President Barack Obama was born in the United States, period. Now we all want to get back to making America strong and great again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right, so he trolls them, right? He does this whole routine, and the media are so mad that they were supposed to go on this press tour of the new Washington, D.C. Trump hotel, and they actually physically went in and deleted all the footage that they had taken of the Trump tour so that nobody could use it because they were so mad at Trump. So, over the weekend, there's this terrorist attack in New York City, and there's a terrorist attack in Minneapolis, and there's an attempted terrorist attack in New Jersey. So what are the media focused on? Where's the media's big focus? On Obama's birth certificate, naturally. So on Sunday morning, here's the coverage on Sunday morning of the news that really matters. Here's Martha Raddatz, who's going to be moderating one of these debates, and here she is talking about the birther issue.
Yeah. He said Friday that Hillary Clinton and her campaign were at fault for this birther movement as well, and you just said it yourself. What is the proof? Because we can't find any, and fact checkers have looked into that Hillary Clinton started the birther movement.
Well, I just would refer you to news reports with the McClatchy News Service and reports of people in your industry, Martha, but I really have to tell you. The reports of people in my industry say there's no proof they can find that Hillary Clinton had anything to do with it. Well, I understand your perspective on it. I understand the desire of many in the national media to change the subject from Hillary Clinton's disastrous record and her dishonesty, but we're just not going to play that game.
Okay, so you can see where the media is focused on. It's on birtherism. That's the real issue. That's what everybody's worried about. Things are blowing up in trash cans in the middle of New York City, and they're deeply, deeply worried about the birther issue. Martha Raddatz continues to insist that the birther issue is not over. She continues to focus on his 5C.
On Friday, for the very first time, Mr. Trump said that Barack Obama was born in the U.S. Why did it take him so long?
Well, let me say that the momentum in this campaign is really overwhelming, and I think it's because Donald Trump's been focusing on issues the American people really care about. He brought that issue to an end this week. But I have to be honest with you, other than many in the national media, and certainly in Hillary Clinton's campaign, as I campaign all across this country with Donald Trump.
We need to listen to Pence's full answer because we know what he's going to say here. So here's the point. Forget about the birther stuff for a second. No one cares about that when bombs are going off in the middle of New York City. But what are the media concerned about? The media are deeply, deeply concerned that Donald Trump said bombing. So here's what Donald Trump said immediately after this bombing in New York City.
Just before I got off the plane, a bomb went off in New York, and nobody knows exactly what's going on. But, boy, we are living in a time. We better get very tough, folks. We better get very, very tough. Just happened. So we'll find out, but it's a terrible thing that's going on in our world and in our country, and we are going to get tough and smart and vigilant, and we're going to end it. We're going to end it. So we'll see what it is. We'll see what it is.
And as I mentioned up top at the beginning of the show, the media lose their mind. How could Trump say bombing? We don't even know it's a bombing. Okay, first of all, you can see in the video it's a bombing. Okay, you can see from the video it's a bombing. There are multiple angles of the attack. People were already saying it was a bombing within minutes of it happening. As opposed to, there was, for example, a gas leak in New York City that created a massive explosion a couple of weeks ago, and there was no one who was saying that it was a bombing because it was clear that it was a gas leak. Hillary wants to knock Trump for this, too, so Hillary goes after Trump. She says it's really inappropriate for him to say this. She just makes a little boo-boo.
I've been briefed about the bombings in New York and New Jersey and the attack in Minnesota. Obviously, we need to do everything we can to support our first responders. Also to pray for the victims. We have to let this investigation unfold. We've been in touch with various officials, including the mayor's office in New York, to learn what they are discovering.
She continued on by ripping into Trump, saying that it was inappropriate for Trump to comment on it. The problem was she let off her statement by saying we know about the bombings in New York. So she says, there have been these bombings in New York, but Trump said they were bombings, and that's really bad. That's really bad. Is that supposed to make Americans feel secure with her? I mean, first of all, she looks half dead there. She looks like she's an extra from the cast of Walking Dead. She's a walking corpse. She looks bad, right? I mean, you don't feel secure with her. But that's really where your focus is. That's really where your focus is, and it gets worse. So we've already said that Trump is right about the media. He's also right about the Democrats and how they make people feel insecure about all of this.